You thought wrong. We are going to be covering several times where New York City's weather deviated from what you would expect. In some cases, even shocked me a little bit, I'm going to be honest. So the first thing I want to talk about is May 2017. May 2017 was an unusually cold May, and because October broke records for its warmth, October would wind up being warmer than May this year, which is a pretty rare occurrence. Now, May had a 3-day heat wave from May 17th to 19th. You would automatically assume that any May with a heat wave, especially in the middle of the month, would wind up becoming one of the warmest Mays on record. Right? Wrong. May 2017 was 1.3 degrees below average, and interestingly, despite the heat wave, it was the average high at 2.6 degrees below average that dragged the month down because its average low was actually average. But why? Well, it's because aside from the heat waves, there practically was no warmth. On May 19th, the cold front came in, and for the next 6 days, temperatures just kind of failed to hit 70, which is another rare occurrence for May. Also, it was quite chilly before the heat wave struck, and basically there were only 6 above average days. Think of how much more below average the month would be if not for the heat wave. The heat wave made this month not like one of the coldest on record. And one of the days had a high of 92, May 18th, that wound up breaking a record for the date. And the low of 75 on that day, it was 1 degree shy of tying May's record low. Had the low been 1 degree warmer, it would have tied the record, and all this in a still below average May. So that's something that I think would shock a lot of people, is a May with a heat wave can still wind up being below average. Also in the suburbs, there was no heat wave. Where I live, the highs went from 78 to 87 to 89, meaning that none of the days would hit heat wave status. Also, after this, it wouldn't hit 80 degrees again until June 9th, at least for New York City. And there would be no days with highs in the 80s in May. Besides this heat wave, the warmest high would be in the 70s. So again, the month would have been very cold if not for the heat wave, and the heat wave simply just could not save the month from still being below average. Another thing that you might think of is a year with the 3rd coldest February and one of the most frigid winters on record, which actually became the coldest first quarter on record for New York State, is surely going to be a below average year, right? Well, wrong too. 2015 is one of New York City's warmest years on record. Now, 2021 was the 8th warmest despite no month setting records, and I think 2015 had 2 months set records, which I don't know that's ever happened before. But all this in spite of the 3rd coldest February, and with a mean temp of 23.9, it was 11.4 below average, about. January had a mean temp of 29.9, and that was 2.7 below average at the time. March was about 4.4 below average, with a mean temp of 38.1. But then April, it is already a steady warm-up, and they're already a bit above average in April. May becomes the 2nd hottest May on record. June is 0.2 below average, and the average high in June is just 0.1 higher than the average high in May. Essentially, June was not a substantial warm-up from May, and this would be the last below average month in the city until March 2017. So, yeah. After this, June, which was not that much warmer than May, we had the 5th hottest July-August combo on record, including the actually at the time, we have the 5th hottest August, which had a mean temp of 79. However, this was since supplanted, first by August 2016, and now by August 2022. September also became the warmest on record, which you have to see if 2022 will supplant that, but given how the forecast is trending colder, I doubt it. What you have to understand is that despite a record streak of 61 days with highs stuck below 45 degrees, from the 6th of January to the 7th of March, I want to say, when a thaw finally began to come to the area. The summer of 2015 was set a record for most amount of days with highs above 80 that year, from July 10th to September 9th. And this is more unusual because of August setting it, so there will be plenty of balmy days in September. The warmest temperature of the year, 97 degrees, was even set in September, on the 8th of September. So you could see how there was still substantial warmth deep into the year, although by mean temperature, the warmest temperature was in July, because that had to do with a high of 94, but a steamy low of 82. So you can imagine what the humidity would be like on that kind of a day. Then, in 2015, we would set a record for the most amount of days with highs above 80 at 114. So this would break a lot of records from 1944, which had a July that had no days with highs below 80. Now, July 2022 would also set this, but it wouldn't even come close to the ranks of having one of these very impressive streaks, simply because in the city and also in the suburbs, both June 28th and August 1st had highs that were below 80. So the streak would actually only be 33 days, which is very unfortunate. Now, in the month of, in 2015, we would have the warmer September. October would cool off, but still be 1.1 degrees above average. Then we would have November be the warmest on record at the time, still second warmest on record, with a mean temp of 52.8. And finally, December would have a mean temp of 50.8, 13.3 above average, and the warmest December on record. December being warmer than March isn't a rare occurrence, but I mean, this December and November came within striking distance of being warmer than April. December 2015 was warmer than an average November, and I could think of a recent April 2018 to be exact, where April 2018 was colder than December 2015. And that was only the 44th coldest April on record, despite being the coldest since 1975. Another thing that I want to keep you informed of is that in 2015, that December, literally, I think, became, it beat the record by 6.7 degrees. That was the most the record has ever been toppled by. We had a day with a high of 72 and a low of 63, the most above average day ever for the city. And I mean, overall, December had extreme warmth characterized throughout the whole month. I mean, November managed to dip to freezing. December only got to 34 degrees. December did not freeze in New York City. And starting on December 1st, every single day would be above average until January 3rd, 2016. And January 2016 would be the biggest drop-off from December and still be an above average January. It really is incredible how warm New York City was in December 2015, and having the warmest December and September, as well as coming close in May and November, and briefly holding November for 5 years, is what would really give 2015 the stamina, the steam, to become one of New York City's warmest years on record. It's not in the top 10, but it's got to be close. So, yeah. Don't think just because you're frigid winter that you can't still have a toasty year in the end. I mean, I know 2014 was below average, but still. Just don't make that assumption, please. Another thing that I want to tackle is something pertaining to 2018. Just because you have the latest low for the 70s on record in October does not mean you're going to have a toasty October. When it was set in 2017, that was true. We had the warmest October on record. But in 2018, despite this breaking the record with a low in the 70s on October 10th, a cold front swept through the next couple of days, and while the first third of October felt more like September, the final two-thirds felt more like November, and it only wound up being 0.8 degrees above average. The average high was below average. So don't get your hopes up, because the month's weather can change dramatically. Kind of like how May 2016 started out really cold in the first week, but the last week was really steamy, and because it was somewhat close to average in the remainder of the month, the middle of the month, you would still wind up having a May that was 0.4 degrees above average. So just because a month starts one way doesn't mean it's going to end that way. Just throw it out there. Also, it's not common when December is like the coldest month of the year, but in 2017 it was due to relatively toasty but still snowy January and February. So that's right. Even if a month is well above average by over 5 degrees, don't expect it to be tranquil snowfall. Snow can come in drives even when it's an above average month, because all you need is that one cold day. And as seen on February 9, 2017, one cold day in a record-breaking month, although now it's been pushed down to second warmest, and all of a sudden 9.4 inches of snow on your doorstep. So that made February 2017 an above average snowfall month, although only by 0.2 inches, in spite of the fact that it was the warmest month, the warmest February on record being 2012, though it would later fall to 2018 and be pushed down to second, which would cause 2012 to be pushed down to third. Despite 2012 being like the warmest year on record in New York City, tied with 2020, it doesn't have any record warm months, because while March 2012 initially looked like it was going to be the case, a cold, rainy, raw day prevented March from becoming the driest and warmest on record, keeping those records intact to 1945 and 2006. So again, one day can ruin it. It almost happened in November 2015. That one cold day at the end of the month with a high of 47 and a low of 33 almost denied it its record. It managed to get it anyway, but it was close. And obviously it would fall 5 years later. I don't think December 2015 is ever going to fall. September, maybe, but December, I really think 50.8 will stay intact for a very long time. There are some records, in fact, that have managed to be this way for a very long amount of time. So, yeah, that's about all I have. It's just kind of, don't assume things with the weather. You can be wrong.